You guys know what you're here for. We're Roastin' Wish. I went through every lyric of I'm a Star and surprise, surprise, I hate it. And here I am to subject all of you to my pain. Did you guys know that there's a hate wish club? It's actually super easy to join. All you gotta do is scroll down and there should be a big red button underneath this video that says subscribe. Oh, and if you want to be an honorary member, go a little to the side of that subscribe button and you should see a thumbs up. That's how you advance in the club. Anyway, before we get into it, just a disclaimer again, I'm not an expert in music, so take most of what I say in this video with a grain of salt. But anyway, really, I mean, let's just get this over with. Just play the clip.
Have you ever wondered why you look up at the sky for answers?
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Really quickly before we start, I have a little shout out to give. You might have noticed something a little different about this video. Huge thank you to Audrey from Ballpoint Expression for the incredible art. Seriously, guys, she is fantastic. I couldn't have imagined anything cuter than this. I mean, come on, she's adorable. Audrey is currently taking commissions, so if you need anything art related, just DM at ballpoint_expression on Instagram or message her on Facebook, link in the description. And with that, on with the show. I talked about this line in my other Wish video, which you can watch now if you need some context. This song has a deceptively innocent opening, and then slowly, gradually, quietly slips into total oblivion by the end. But before we get there, let's enjoy what little sanity we have and talk about what makes this line good, shall we? Let's revisit cadence, which, as you probably all know by now, is the word I use to describe the matching up of strong syllables with strong beats in a song. And again, for a more in-depth explanation, you can watch my other Wish video right here. This line has a great rhythm because it emphasizes the correct syllables throughout, and it actually has a consistent iambic meter, which is what you call a one strong, one weak syllable pattern. But don't get too comfortable, cause it's not all sunshine and rainbows.
Or white flowers in the wind are effortless and eloquent dancers.
I have something to confess. I have made a mistake. In my first Wish video, I bashed on them for using the word eloquent in this context. I said that eloquent could only be applied to speaking or writing, when in actuality, it can also mean vividly or movingly expressive or revealing, as in an eloquent monument. I don't know, guys. Maybe Wish is actually smarter than all of us. And maybe Under All the Fluff is the most intelligent, emotional, moving film of 2023. And maybe one day we'll all realize that Wish was the last desperate attempt from Disney to bring us all back to literacy and critical thinking. And we'll all wonder how we ever underestimated its genius. I wouldn't be surprised at all if no one who read this at Disney knew either of the correct definitions.
What forms the rings in the trees, turns a pine from a seed.
There's something about this verse that sounds rhythmically off, even though all of these lines have correct emphasis. The first line starts on the second beat in the measure, but the second line is in a hurry for some reason and starts earlier. And this line starts even earlier than that. It's just weird, and it comes out stilted because the strong beats end up being wildly inconsistent. And also, echoing one of the issues with knowing what I know now, this line doesn't end on the downbeat like the previous two lines did, which makes it feel a tad trail-offy. And all that is not even mentioning that the phrase turns a pine from a seed is like, it's inverted even from Yoda's standards. The natural phrasing would be more like, what turns a seed into a pine? Nobody would ever say, the pine turned from a seed. You'd have to say, the pine turned into a pine from a seed. And even then, it would be way easier to just say, the pine grew from a seed, or the pine was once a seed. Like, it just feels like you're jumping through 87 billion hoops just to come up with a rhyme, and you landed on that, and you were like, well, guess it makes sense. I don't know why I'm explaining this. People know this, don't they? Please tell me that when people hear this line, they recognize that something is horribly wrong. I'd like to think people are smart enough for that at least, right? 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 The quality from line to line is giving me whiplash. I genuinely like the comparison of human eyes to galaxies. It's beautiful, and it creates a direct connection between stars and people, suggesting that we're made of the same stuff. It's great for the theme of the song, and it's also rhythmic at the same time. Microscopic galaxies, passed down generationally. I mean, it's catchy, it makes me want to dance along. But like any brief glimpse of art in Wish lyrics, it quickly deteriorates into actual doggy-doo.
Well, you don't have to look too hard.
The true problem with this chorus is not in the musical composition, the cadence, or the grammar. It's not even in the boring lines or the awkward tone, and believe me, this chorus has several of those problems. No, the real problem here is in the very foundation of the song, because it literally, conceptually, just does not stand. I talked about this song for several minutes in my first one, and I brought up this core issue with the song, which was that it never truly answers the questions that the verse brings up. I mean, look at it. The verse introduces the question, which leads the audience to believe that the chorus might deliver on that and actually answer it. But instead, the chorus says all this, which just essentially, when you get down to it, means this question is super easy to answer. Let us help you. You see what I mean? Are you smelling the issue? Are you getting a whiff? I think this whole issue brings in another story element that I haven't yet had the chance to talk about with Wish, and that is show, don't tell, which I'm sure all of you understand already, but this is my YouTube channel, so I get to explain whatever I want. The idea is when you're telling a story, instead of outright stating that your character is feeling angry because their pet gerbil was kidnapped by gangsters, you would tell about an action that that character took because they were feeling that emotion, i.e. spending 7 years chasing after the gang leader to finally find and kidnap his most trusted confidant in order to hold him for ransom. And of course, as with all art rules, it's made to be broken. There are all sorts of situations where as an author you would want to tell and not show, but the key is it all depends on what impression you want to give to the audience. For example, if you were writing a satire about pseudo-intellectuals, you would want your so-called nerd characters to lay it on real thick about how smart they are and tell everyone how they know the answers to all the questions, but then never actually answer the question to show that they know any of the answers. You see? You picking up what I'm laying down? The act of assuring the listener that you know the answer to a question and are going to relate it presently, and it's going to be quite revelatory, and we're taking Wise right out of mystery, and you're going to get closure, but then never actually clearly explaining that answer, gives the impression that you actually have no idea what you're talking about and are just bloating up the word count so you can hand in the essay and salvage your grade. Which again, it depends on the situation. It's exactly the impression you would want to give if you were satirizing pseudo-intellectuals. And forgive me, I know this is far-fetched, but I'm gonna go out on a limb and say it wasn't the impression they were going for in this quirky, poppy, inspirational Disney song. Whoopsie.
We're here for all your question marks.
I already went nuts on this in my first video. I feel like I'm gonna be saying that a lot. Nobody says question marks when referring to questions. I mean, I know this song was directed towards kids, but like, so was Mulan, and that crap does slap.
This is what you give me to work with. Well, honey, I've seen worse.
And you're trying to figure out just who you are. Don't look far.
That's 3, count 'em, 3 lines this song has dragged out the I know the answer, now let's see how long I can take to give it to you act. And there are more.
In the sky in your front yard.
Okay, my cadence bar is low. This is the first time this song commits a minor cadence infraction. Naturally, the phrase would only emphasize the word sky, in the sky, but the song also emphasizes the word in, which is just slightly off enough to hurt me a little bit.
In your heart and in your stars.
And now they went and emphasized the word in 2 more times, like they're trying to hurt me.
If you really want to know just who you are.
You're a star.
And if you're tallying them up, that is 6 lines the song has dragged it out to by now. And before you say that they have explained it already, the line, "You're a star" alone is just not enough for me to consider the questions from the beginning answered. So as far as I'm concerned, they're still going.
Did we just blow your mind? Well, I've known the entire time.
The thing that really saturates this line in cringe, in my opinion, is how it suddenly makes it awkwardly clear just how much they desperately wanted this movie to sound like Lin-Manuel Miranda wrote it. Yeah, I don't know what I was expecting. I was gonna have to talk about him at some point. I mean, his smudged fingerprints are all over this thing. For me personally, I've never considered him to be that bad of a songwriter. I really liked Hamilton at first, but it did get old pretty fast. I loved some of the Encanto soundtrack, and other songs just felt hollow to me. Overall, I don't hate him as a concept, and even if the style gets old fast, I'm willing to admit he can do some pretty genius things with rhythm and rhyme. And like listening to Wish just butchering his style of music is supremely annoying. First of all, while Miranda does use half rhymes a lot in his songs, he's also known for using a lot of internal rhymes and assonance in his lyrics, and for having incredibly complex rhythmic patterns. And honestly, next to that, this line is just incredibly lackluster, and when I was first watching this movie, it was the comparison to Lin-Manuel Miranda that was making me cringe the most, because it brought out the simplicities in what otherwise would have been just mediocre songwriting, and it made it much worse by comparison. And going back to the show don't tell thing, this line gives a weird impression because instead of actually elaborating on what the previous line meant, it's trying to rub in our faces how smart it was, and again, it ends up feeling like the animals are trying to convince us they're smart without actually showing us they are.
When it comes to the universe, we're all shareholders.
I don't know if anyone needed to hear this, but I don't actually think the word shareholders is super out of place here. The problem with words like acquire being in Welcome to Rosas is that there were literally other lines in the song sung by the exact same character that were supposed to have a totally different tone. This song, funnily enough, has actually been setting up a tone where the word shareholders makes sense, even though it's supposedly a kid's song, but whatever. The first verse had generationally and forms and microscopic, which are all kind of scholarly technical words. I guess it's in the chorus that this tone gets thrown out the window, but we'll wait a few lines to talk about that. Wait. System? Solar? Yeah. You did not just. I just realized that the last two words are an inversion of the phrase solar system. Why did no one tell me this? They're trying to tack a pun on the end? Does Disney have no concept of when to cut their losses and accept that there was nowhere they could fit this dumb little pun into their song? How could they cut out the villain power couple and Starboy, but they needed to keep in the system solar? Get it? Solar system, get it? Forget Yoda, Wish should just speak pig Latin. Arye uye upitste?
Baby, we're all just little nebulae in a nursery from supernovas. Now we've grown into our history.
One of the many examples where this song dances around a satisfying explanation of the concept but stops just short of being coherent. This whole verse is also another blatant attempt at imitating Lin-Manuel Miranda, and even though it's all good cadence-wise and even has a consistent rhythm, my first impression of it was just to cringe. On a second look, it has a few more complex rhymes and even does some assonance and consonants, which is where it uses the same vowels and consonants, in case anyone needed to know. But what makes it feel contrived is not in the accomplishment of that, but in the drawn-out sentences they had to write to get there. I don't like the just little in the middle of the first line, but what makes me cringe the most is taking Wise right out of mystery. First off, you know what I'm gonna say, it's show don't tell again. And secondly, I know I'm a hater, but disregard everything and take this line completely out of context, and it just sounds so lame. I can hear how much they were straining for words to hit that consistent rhythm, and that's not to mention that the last line is like just supposed to be another stupid pun. I don't know. Send help. In my first video, I said that the personification of the leaves added nothing, but
may I just say,
oops. It's all kind of up to interpretation. Like, you could say that personifying animals is kind of the entire point of this song, and with this line, they're bringing the leaves into their circle of life. But then you look at the actual line and it's, they eat the sun. There has to have been a more gentle way to say that. Even if the personification adds something to the song, the image of leaves literally eating the sun is terrifying. It doesn't make me want to be friends with the leaves, it makes me want to gather the artillery.
See, that's where all the balls of gas come from.
I still stand by my point made in the first video. This line is where the song starts feeling like a montage. You didn't finish explaining the concept of eating the leaves. We eat the leaves and they eat the sun. See, it's the same energy in everyone. I don't know. Yeah, I dabble. I dabble. Something like that would have brought the idea around to where it was supposed to be, and all they would have had to sacrifice was this fart joke. This might just be me, but personally, I think the movie would have been better for it.
Hey, you still look like you're hanging on by a string. Just see the mushrooms and you'll understand.
I counted 10 whole lines in this song that serve no other purpose than to say something generic that vaguely surrounds the topic of answering questions, 3 of which get repeated in the chorus. Joy.
So your dust is my dust?
Now somehow the goat is coming to a conclusion, but as an audience, we still haven't gotten the whole picture of this concept. Aha! You thought you could fool me into thinking this made sense, but I know that all around and not too far are 2 phrases that essentially mean the same thing. Honestly, if this movie was made for kids, it is an insult to their intelligence. Here's where the slight tonal issues I mentioned earlier come in. The rest of the song has been using these academic sounding words, and now they're making slangy compound words like trina and wanna. There's another teeny tiny weeny little cadence infraction here. I know I'm a killjoy, bear with me. It should be do you know. Instead it's do you know. The more you know.
Here's a little fun allegory
That gets me excited, sorry.
Guys, I am so sorry. I did not research my original video well at all. I was under 1,000 subscribers when I made it, and I had no idea it would blow up this big, but that's not an excuse. I shouldn't have said excitatory wasn't a word. I did exactly what I accused Disney of doing and didn't even look it up. That gets me exhibiting excitement, I suppose works just fine if we're talking purely grammatically. Although it is a really painfully roundabout way to say you're excited. It feels like all these animals know how confusing their song is and are just giving up at this point. I guess if I'm being fair, I have to admit that "We Are Our Own Origin Story" is a pretty well-constructed line with consonants and assonance and stuff.
If I'm explaining this story, well, I'll
another pair of lines that are used as filler to say random things about answering questions rather than actually answering them. They've come up with so many different ways to say we're answering a question. Honestly, if Disney had turned to this creativity to actually, you know, writing a good song, I think they could have gotten somewhere. And this is also another example of animals feeling like they're just giving up because they recognize they're in a sinking ship. Oh, I'm sorry, am I explaining this poorly? Well, Star can do it, who by the way can't talk. So yeah, this song would have been better if Star had sung the whole thing. And we're back to the show don't tell problem. You're gonna sit here and tell us how amazing this realization is without showing us that you actually learned anything. More tiny cadence and fractions. No matter to no matter. Ladies and gentlemen, the moment you've all been waiting for. Yes, I do think this line is stupid. They're definitely trying for just blatant silliness. It's not clever or witty. It's not even really a joke. It's just silly. Which means it's definitely intentional, at least, but it really accomplishes nothing other than twisting the line around so that it rhymes with star. And I guess you could say it communicates something about the deer, which is that he's stupid. But if you'll allow me to give my 2 cents on the matter. That's a dumb character trait. He's shallow and annoying and nobody likes him. I know this song was written for kids, but may I remind you... Let's get down to business! Alright, well, I think that's everything. A couple more things before you go. If anyone is a small creator like me and looking for a nice starter microphone that won't break the bank, I recommend the Logitech Blue Yeti USB microphone. I used it to record this video, so you already know what it sounds like, and better sound quality really helps to keep people on your video or podcast. It's only about $110, and if you get it refurbished, it's only $65. Mine is refurbished and it works great. So click the link in the description if you're interested. And then lastly, I wanted to just throw this out there and ask how many of you might be interested in joining a writing critique group with me. If you're wanting to become a writer, then a critique group is a really indispensable part of your publishing journey. They help you find out your weaknesses, improve your craft, and you can make a lot of cool writer friends who can help you down the road, you know? I'm thinking we can meet on Discord or video call every week or so, and you'd get to read and critique my writing, I would read and critique yours. I'm considering starting one as a part of a membership program for this channel. It would obviously be cheap because I'm not an expert at all, and you would probably get other benefits as well. But yeah, just let me know if any of you might be interested in that, or if that's just a horrible idea and I should just stop thinking about it completely. Let me know that too, and we'll see where it goes. Bye. Being a YouTuber, so much fun. Act like a nerd all the time. Embarrass my roommates every night. And then the ones upstairs turn on their washing machine. What do we say next? To my despair, why do they need their clothes clean? Please turn off your washing machine. It's really getting in the way of my career. And if any of you guys are keeping up, yes, I did emphasize the wrong syllable on the word clothes. You're learning. Good job.